Today I'm going to explain the movie called Hollow Man from 2000. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care, and I hope you enjoy it. At the beginning of the movie, we saw a scientist. His name was Sebastian. He's the main character of this movie. This scientist was researching to develop a medicine that could make any animal invisible, including humans. But he was unable to develop the medicine to make that animal or human visible once again. He was working on this project for the past year so that he could bring the invisible animals into a visible state. After working so hard, finally he succeeded, which means he had developed the medicine to turn the invisible animals into visible. Because he had experimented on so many animals and made them invisible and wanted to bring them back to a visible state. When he succeeded in making the medicine, he told this to his friends and asked them to come to the lab. There was a gorilla in the lab, and he was invisible. At first they tranquilized the gorilla and then tied him down to the bed, and then injected that medicine into his body. After injecting the medicine, they got into big trouble because the heart of the gorilla was beating so fast, and it seemed like they would not be able to save him. They tried their best to save the gorilla. They shocked his heart with electricity to make the heartbeat normal. And slowly, the gorilla became normal and visible. They were so happy about this experiment, they celebrated their success. We found out that these experiments were for the military. They had a meeting with the military, but Sebastian lied to them that he failed in making the medicine. He needs some more time to succeed with this experiment. But the military told him that you have taken so much time for this experiment already, and if you cannot make the medicine soon, then we will call someone else to do your job. After coming out of the meeting, two of his colleagues named Linda and Matthew asked him, "Why did you lie to them? Why did you tell them the experiment failed?" But then Sebastian told him that I've lied because I want to apply this medicine to a human. And the man was none other than Sebastian himself. After that, he talked about this with his colleagues, and here he lied to them as well. He told them that the military gave him permission to apply this medicine to humans. But the truth was, the military didn't order him to do such experiments on humans. And now Sebastian wants to apply this medicine to his body. Linda and Matthew agreed with him. In the next scene, they injected the invisible medicine into Sebastian's body, but he felt so much pain because of this, and at last he became invisible. After becoming invisible, Sebastian fainted. It took him 17 hours to wake up. When he woke up, he couldn't tolerate the lights. It was too painful for him to look at the lights, and that's why they turned off all the lights. And now Sebastian was totally invisible. They did some tests on his body, and they saw that his body was totally normal, which means he was totally fine. And all the girls on that team were feeling so uncomfortable because Sebastian was having fun with them, and they could feel the presence of Sebastian around them. 3 days have passed, and now it was time to make him visible. And then they injected him with the visible medicine, and Sebastian started to scream in pain. But the problem was, Sebastian was still becoming visible, and he was almost dead. They had no other options left, and that's why they put a mask on his face so that they could see him. But Sebastian got so angry with them, and argued with Matthew. He told him that you guys have let me suffer the pain for 10 days. You guys have burned my eyes with lights. Only I can feel the pain. Since Sebastian couldn't become visible, he started to become mentally unstable. He is invisible for so long and trapped inside a room, and that's why he wanted to get out of here. One day he became so bored and annoyed that he left the lab and came back to his house. When he came back home, he saw his neighbor. He had his eyes on her for so long. He took off his mask and clothes and rang the doorbell of that girl. When she opened the door, she couldn't see anyone because Sebastian was invisible. And with this chance, he got inside the house. In the next scene, we saw that Linda came to Sebastian's house and found the mask on the floor. And she became worried and went back to the lab. She told her colleagues about this. She told them that Sebastian could be in danger for us because he's roaming around the city without his mask on. He's invisible and no one can see him. But then Sebastian came to the lab. Linda threatened him that if you ever take off your mask, then we will tell everything about you to the military. Sebastian agreed with her, but still they were worried, since Sebastian was getting mentally unstable. He was acting strangely with them. They decided to always keep an eye on him, even though Sebastian was invisible, but there was still a thermal camera in the lab, and with the help of the camera, they could still see him. And Sebastian knew that they were keeping an eye on him, and he could not go outside of this lab. If he goes outside, then everyone will find it out. Therefore, he destroyed the thermal camera and played the pre-recorded footage on the monitor. That's why they had no idea that Sebastian was not in the lab. He went outside of the lab and directly went to Linda's house. He saw that Linda and Matthew were kissing each other, which means they were in a relationship. He became so mad after seeing this because he was in love with her. That's why Sebastian broke the window because of his anger. When Linda looked outside, she saw no one there. Linda started to have a doubt that Sebastian must have done this. To make sure, Linda called the lab, and the guard of the lab told her that Sebastian was still in the lab, because he was looking at the pre-recorded footage that Sebastian played on the monitor. That's why he thought that Sebastian was still in the lab, but he was not in the lab. When he came back to the lab, he became so mad and killed the dog that was inside. The next day, when the animal doctor came back to the lab to feed the dog, she saw that a dog was dead on the ground. Then she asked Sebastian if he had done this or not. He told her that I don't know anything about it, and they checked the camera to confirm if he had done it or not. But they didn't find anything suspicious on the footage. Everything looked fine. That night, Sebastian once again went to Linda's house. But this time, Linda felt the presence of Sebastian around her, and she had a doubt that Sebastian must have come to her house, and that's why she went back to the lab and checked everything on her own, and she found that Sebastian was not there. Actually, he made a fool out of them. They decided to tell this to their senior doctor. Linda and Matthew went to the senior doctor and told him everything. After hearing everything, the senior doctor became so mad. He kicked out Linda and Matthew from the project. When they left his office, he was about to tell his colleagues about Sebastian, but the phone didn't connect, and Sebastian came to his office. He killed the doctor by drowning him in the water. The next day, Sebastian came back to the lab. Linda and Matthew were waiting for the call of the senior doctor, because today they had a meeting with him. Since the doctor was dead, they didn't receive any call from him. To make sure, Linda called the doctor and found out that the doctor had died. Then Linda decided to tell everything about Sebastian to everyone, because the people who know about Sebastian being invisible were in serious danger from Sebastian. He won't let them live. When he called them to let them know, the phone died. They tried to go outside through the lift and saw that none of the doors or lifts were working, because Sebastian had changed all the security codes of the doors and lifts. They decided to get him at any cost, because Sebastian was still in the lab. A girl of their group had forgotten some of her stuff in the lab, and when she went there to take them, Sebastian killed her. They realized that Sebastian will kill them all one by one, because he does not want the secret to come out. They used a tracker device and found the location of Sebastian. Matthew and his friend went there to get him, but Sebastian hit his friend and he got injured. When Matthew fired at Sebastian, nothing happened to him. But he saw Sebastian's shadow in the gas, and then Sebastian ran away from there. Matthew's friend had bled a lot, so he was in need of blood. Linda's friend went to get the blood, but then Sebastian came there and killed her. On the other side, Matthew's friend died because of blood shortage in his body. Now only 3 people were alive in the lab. They were Linda, Matthew, and one of their friends. Then they went to look for the girl who went to get blood. They saw that Sebastian had kept her body in the freezer room after killing her. After that, Sebastian killed the last friend of Matthew and Linda with a rod. When Matthew went to save his friend, Sebastian also stabbed him with the rod, and he got injured. Sebastian locked them inside the freezer and turned it on, and he left. Linda and Matthew were trapped inside the freezer. Sebastian wanted to kill them with the freezing temperature. The temperature of the freezer was decreasing gradually, but Linda didn't give up. She tried to break the glass door, but failed. Matthew became unconscious because of the temperature. After that, we saw Sebastian. He was dressed so nicely, and he made a bomb with some chemicals. He set a 5-minute timer on the bomb and left the lab. Linda tried to open the door with a magnet, and she succeeded. She took out her boyfriend Matthew from the freezer. After that, she made a fire beside him because his body was so cold because of the low temperature inside the freezer. After that, Linda found Sebastian. He was inside a lift. Before the door of the lift closed, Linda went there, and she had a flamethrower in her hand. She fired at Sebastian with it, and his whole body caught on fire. His body was burning with fire, but he wanted to take revenge on Linda, and that's why he attacked her back. But Linda showed mercy to Sebastian, and that's why she broke the fire alarm pipe and saved Sebastian from the fire. But Sebastian attacked her and tried to kill her. Linda was about to die, but then Matthew came there. Matthew had a rod in his hand, and he hit Sebastian with it in his head. Sebastian fell to the ground. Matthew pulled Linda from the floor, and they were going away, but then Sebastian went to hit them with a rod. But Matthew noticed and pushed him away. The rod that Sebastian had in his hand got in touch with an electric circuit, and he got shocked by the electricity and fainted there. After that, Linda and Matthew went to the room where Sebastian had planted the bomb, but they realized that they didn't have enough time left, and they couldn't defuse the bomb. Therefore, they ran towards the lift to get out of there. But they couldn't use the lift since Sebastian had already changed all the security codes of the lifts and doors. That's why they used the emergency exit of the lift, and they were climbing upwards. When they were climbing upwards, the bomb exploded. Meanwhile, Sebastian came there and grabbed Linda's leg, which means Sebastian was still alive. Matthew tried to save her, but Sebastian took her and fell on top of the lift. But Linda grabbed a wire of the lift and pressed a button with her leg, and as a result, the wire got disconnected from the lift, and Sebastian fell down with the lift. There was a fire down there. Sebastian died from the fire. After that, Linda climbed the wire and came back to Matthew. And we saw that they were so happy to be alive and together. To watch more explanations of these kinds of movies, click on the videos on your screen. And don't forget to let me know how you feel about today's video in the comments down below. And at last, I will say, stay safe, stay well, thanks.